Hey, looks like we're live, guys. So we'll get started. My name is Lee DeForest, and I'm the city's comprehensive planner, and we are here today to talk to y'all about Columbia Compass. So first of all, thank you for joining us from your homes, from your living rooms, wherever you are today. We know we'd much rather be doing this in person, but we're glad to be able to provide a quick update and refresher for y'all as we move into the approval process. So today's meeting will consist of a brief presentation, which I'll be giving, and then we'll follow that up with a question and answer session. We have a few frequently asked questions that we will also go through, but during that time, we'll post, if you haven't had the chance to look up the numbers to join or the ways to submit emails, we'll be posting those on the slides so that you can submit those questions and answers as well, and we'll continue to move forward through those. Just another quick housekeeping note, this afternoon's presentation is the same as the presentation we'll be giving this evening at 6 p.m. So if you're called away for some reason, you can certainly rejoin us then as well. So, and I just wanted to start out by introducing everyone. So here with me today, we have a number of fine folks from the planning division. So John Fellows, our planning administrator, and Shane Shaughnessy. Oh, sorry, you're saying hi. Or you can wave, whichever. I can't see y'all. So John Fellows, our planning administrator, Shane Shaughnessy, our community planner, and Rachel Walling, who is our historic preservation planner, and Andrew Livingood, who you can't see, but he will be handling our public input as our annexation coordinator, and Lucinda Statler, who is our urban design planner. So I just want to thank those folks for being with us today. And just we'll go ahead and kick it off. So Columbia Compass, as hopefully you're well aware by now, is the update to the city's comprehensive plan. It is our 10-year update. It's something we've been working on for a good bit now, and so we'll commence. John, if you'll go to the next slide. So the first thing I wanted to talk to y'all about, and just a quick refresher, because again, we really hope that you've been engaged and involved in the process, is just a review of the elements of the plan. All of the comprehensive plans in the state of South Carolina are required to have 9 elements. And so those are the chapters of our plan. So just do a quick review of those. The first element in the first chapter is the population element. And this element is really an overview of where we are as a community, where we've been and where we're going, both looking at demographics and who we identify as a community. The natural resources element talks about not just Columbia's, but also the region's natural resources that we rely on and that make us kind of a unique habitat in place. And this is the first chapter in the plan that's going to offer recommendations. So all of the chapters that follow will have specific recommendations for handling how we move forward for the next 10 years, specific to the plan chapter. So recommendations in this chapter include things like how we can be ready for 100% clean renewable energy by 2036. Next. The economic development chapter takes a great look at Columbia's economy and our workforce, and it makes recommendations for how we can thrive as a community moving forward. The housing chapter takes a look at all types of housing, so affordable housing, but also looking at kind of the mix of housing. So, do we have enough multifamily or enough single family or smaller units or larger units? What does our market require in the community, and what steps can we take to make sure that we're meeting those needs? The transportation chapter looks at all modes of transportation. So it carries forward the Walk Bike Columbia plan, which was adopted in 2015. So looking at bike, pedestrian, and transit. But the transportation chapter also looks at vehicular transportation and looks at really how all those modes utilize our streets and what steps we need to take to make sure we're prepared for a multimodal future. The land use chapter is another element that was updated recently, more recently than the last 10 years. So the Plan Columbia planning process took took place in 2014, 2015, and a lot of that has been carried forward in the land use chapter. But what it does is it looks at kind of mix of uses we'd like to see as a city. So the picture you see before you is of Millwood Avenue, and but looking into the downtown. So we know as a city we have suburban areas, we have urban areas, we have very dense areas, and then historic neighborhoods and great kind of open spaces. So how do we make sure we're mixing those uses and providing for neighborhood business as well? The community facilities chapter talks about city buildings like City Hall, but it also talks about some of the facilities that we don't necessarily think of as facilities. So our infrastructure, we provide water and sewer lines throughout the community. Those are community facilities. Our staff that helps to make sure that these facilities and this infrastructure functions well and provides y'all with the services that you require from the City of Columbia. So that's where really this chapter focuses. And the cultural resources chapter is not just about, say, arts, or when we think about cultural resources, maybe at performing arts venues, but it really talks about it's the meld of those things that make our culture unique. So what our identity is, who we perceive ourselves to be as a community, but also those things that are important to us culturally, whether it's our history or our events or spaces or opportunities for artists. And the priority investment chapter is the last main chapter of Columbia Compass. And this element is kind of the synopsis of the Columbia Compass plan as a whole. So it really gives, it takes all those 125 recommendations throughout the other chapters of the plan, and it distills them down into kind of an easy access guide. So in addition to providing almost an index of sorts, it does provide you with kind of our take on what we think and what we've heard from y'all should be the priorities of implementation, because this is a 10-year plan. So over the next 10 years, we don't want to start everything year one, and we don't want to wait for everything until year 9. So thinking about how we can strategically move forward those recommendations. Next slide. So just wanted to note that the cultural resources element and this planning process in general has been a partnership with the Amplify Columbia process. So if you haven't been engaged in that process, we hope you look into that further as well. They are also wrapping up, but Amplify Columbia was an update to the community's cultural plan as a whole, and it's a partnership with One Columbia. And before we get into the questions and answers, I just wanted to review a little bit of how we've gone through the planning process and how we hope you'll use the document. So this first slide is really about public engagement. We've had we feel a very successful public engagement during this process, and it has been critical to helping us develop the plan, and it will be critical as we move towards implementation. So throughout the process, we've worked to have face-to-face opportunities for folks to interact, and of course now virtually. And we've also had online opportunities and ways for folks to be engaged, whether it was through our interactive surveys or providing our newsletter updates, that sort of thing. So we've been quite pleased with this. So far, we estimate about 5,500 points of engagement, but we hope you all will stay engaged and we'll grow that number even larger. And this is, something that we really talked about at the front of the planning process. So every planning process has kind of a 3-phase approach. The first phase being really trying to get a handle on and understand what folks' values are and what your perceptions of our current kind of state of being is, so that we are able to best make recommendations and planning for the future that reflect those values and your concerns and those things that you're excited about. So none of these should be a surprise for y'all, certainly, because we heard these from folks throughout the process. But people really, really valued their community. They really valued walkability and cultural offerings. And with the perceptions, what those really helped us do is develop recommendations in a way that really tried to address some of those perceptions so that we didn't have some of the same hiccups moving forward. So we appreciated y'all having some great feedback for us in the front end of the planning process. And the themes of Columbia Compass, we hope you'll, as you dive into the document, if you haven't already, that you'll think about these themes as you do so. So although we have 9 chapters, 9 elements of the plan, we knew that those chapters were very interrelated. So if you think about it, where you live versus where you work, so housing and economic development, but also land use, what amenities do you want in your community? And do you have open spaces nearby for natural resources? So thinking about those in a more collaborative and comprehensive manner brought us to these broad themes of equity and accessibility, safety, public health, and resiliency. And then as we dug a little deeper into the recommendations, we identified topical themes as well. And the topical themes, we thought about, as folks read the plan, maybe you'd rather not read just about natural resources or just about economic development. You might be interested in the built environment or in equity and accessibility. And we wanted to make sure that folks had the ability to kind of choose your own adventure when reading the plan. So these topical themes are identified for each of the recommendations, and they are indexed in the thematic index to allow you to read, like you might read a cookbook for ingredients. You can look up chocolate and find all the recommendations that deal with chocolate. And I just wanted to do a brief overview of the plan structure. So Columbia Compass is a comprehensive document. So it is a larger document, but we do hope that it's relatively easy to access and easy to identify those things within that you're most interested in. And so we've organized the format of the document in a way that is a little bit repetitive, so it helps guide you in those directions. So within each chapter, we've established guiding principles relevant to the chapter, and then there's a summary of existing conditions. So the existing conditions are really taking a look at a snapshot of what land use looks like, that sort of thing. And then we move into the recommendations. So when we move into the recommendations, those recommendations are really the meat of each chapter. And we look at a number of things within those recommendations, repeated and identified with icons. So who's responsible, the duration, priority, and cost. And I'm seeing something funny on my screen here, so I'm just going to read those other items as well. So the little paper clip is referenced the themes and other elements. The magnifying glass is dated to be collected. The ruler should be measuring success, and the Envision Columbia logo at the bottom there should be the connection to Envision Columbia. And our next steps, we'll talk about a little bit in the Q&A as well, but we are at that point. We were actually at this point back in March when we went to Planning Commission, but with COVID-19 and everything else, we've been a little bit delayed getting there, but we are heading to City Council. We anticipate July 21st for a public hearing, and then we'll go ahead and ask Council to vote on adoption for the plan. And once the plan is adopted, we're not done. So that's really just the beginning. We'll be building on our partnerships and really kicking off implementation. Meanwhile, Amplify Columbia is also working on their final presentation to City Council and to the public, and they'll be moving forward as well. Just wanted to leave you with this one last slide before we get into Q&A. So we really want to make sure that Columbia Compass can be used as a tool by everyone. It's not just a document for City Council. It's not a document for staff alone. And it is certainly not a document that we want to see sit on a shelf. So as citizens, we really hope that you'll use it as a resource to help you to better understand what city priorities are, or what we've stated our priorities are, right? So gives you kind of a sense of why certain projects are moving forward, that sort of thing. It also gives you the opportunity to identify how partnerships might move forward for implementation. So let's say in your professional life or your personal life, you're really interested in a certain topic or certain recommendations, you can utilize Columbia Compass to really identify how you might either personally or professionally be involved in moving those recommendations forward. As such, we also identify those responsible parties. So if you're not sure who to call, or if you're not sure if any progress has been made, although we certainly hope we'll be providing you with regular updates on progress, you'll know who to reach out to. So that should be pretty user friendly. And like I just mentioned, we want to make sure we're tracking our successful implementations. So one of the reasons I would encourage you to stay engaged and involved, follow us on Facebook and Twitter, sign up for a mailing list, is we will be looking to communicate out those successes as we move forward. So we want to make sure that we're keeping y'all engaged in the process. So with that being said, we'll be moving on to our question and answer portion of the section. This slide will be up a couple times during the presentation. So but just wanted to review how you can join. Certainly, if you have any questions, you can email those either now or later. If you want to formulate those, we answer them at any time, but we'll answer them live if emailed now to columbiacompass@columbiasc.gov. Or you can call. So the call is open during the meeting today, and that would be 855-925-2801. Again, that's 855-925-2801. And the meeting code for the noon meeting is 9372. So when you call in, if you press *1, it will allow you to listen. *2 will allow you to record a question via voicemail message that will be answered live. Or you can press *3, and that will place you in a queue so that you can ask your question live when prompted. So as I mentioned earlier, we have a couple of frequently asked questions we'll go through while you guys get queued up, and then we'll continue to kind of check back. So I'll turn it over to John and Shane, who will kick off those questions.
Great, thank you, Lee. That was really great, helpful information. Our first frequently asked question, why are we updating the plan? And I think Shane will be able to let us know, why are we updating the plan now?
Yeah, John. So we're updating the plan because not only is it required by state law to update a city's comprehensive plan every 10 years, it's also good planning practice to do so. We want to make sure that the plan accurately reflects the next 10 years and that its recommendations are still fresh and relevant to the ever-changing landscape of Columbia. We're also looking forward to the city's 250th anniversary, which it happens in 2036. And we're hoping that this plan will help us to continue to move the city forward toward that big anniversary. And the next question for John. So how is this different from other recent planning efforts?
Well, Shane, that's a good question, because we do have a lot of planning efforts here in Columbia. And this is the update for the entire comprehensive plan for every element that Lee had gone over earlier in the presentation. We have updated each of those. People who might have participated in planning activities over the last 10 years might have participated in a neighborhood plan, or they might have participated or be familiar with Walk by Columbia, which is part of the transportation plan, or even our land use plan, which we updated a few years ago. So those were all individual chapter updates to the comprehensive plan. But this actually goes through, and we actually are updating every single section of the plan. So it will really see us through. There will certainly be some updates, I'm sure, over the next 10 years, but it gives us a good starting point going forward. So the other frequently asked question, Shane, that people ask are how are the recommendations in the plan developed? And so would you like to answer that?
Sure. So the recommendations of this plan really come from the people of Columbia. As Lee highlighted earlier, we asked for input from the public through open houses, surveys, focus groups, and many other means throughout this process. And really the recommendations of the plan come from these conversations with the community.
Great, thank you, Shane. Just to remind everybody, you can email in your questions to us at columbiacompass@columbiasc.gov. Or as Lee had mentioned, you can call in to this virtual meeting at 855-925-2801. The meeting code for this afternoon's meeting is 9372, and you'll be prompted to either listen to the meeting by pressing *1, or by pressing *2, you'll be allowed to record a question via voicemail, which we will play live on the air and then answer. Or if you'd like to participate live with us, you can press *3 and you'll be placed in a queue so that you may be able to ask your question. Lee, do we have any emails from anyone who might have sent in anything to the Columbia Compass email?
I have not received anything yet, John, but I will keep an eye out.
All right. And then Andrew is also on the call. And Andrew, I'm wondering if anyone has maybe recorded a voicemail message or has decided to join us live to ask any questions.
Hi, John. I do not see anyone who has raised their hand to speak.
Okay.
I do not have any voicemails.
Great, thank you, Andrew. With that, I think we'll go on to a couple other frequently asked questions. And I think, Shane, you're going to start this question off, correct?
That's right. So I guess this is a question for John. So what happens next?
Well, Shane, our next steps in the comprehensive planning process is to go to a public hearing. This meeting is currently scheduled for July 21st at City Council. What will happen is we will have a public hearing, and it will be open to the public to comment on the comprehensive plan and ask questions or provide additional feedback. And then council will go through a first reading, and then at a subsequent meeting, they will go through the second reading, and then the comprehensive plan would be adopted by ordinance. And so those are sort of the next steps. But even beyond adoption, the question often is asked is, well, what happens after the plan is adopted? And Shane, would you like to share with our viewers a little bit about what happens next?
Sure. So after the plan is adopted, the next step is really the most important part, and that's the implementation of the plan. We plan to reach out to stakeholders, partners, and the public to figure out how to implement the various recommendations of this plan, and to find a preliminary idea of how we prioritize the implementation of the recommendations. You can check out the priority investment section of the plan by going to the website columbiacompass.org.
Great, thanks, Shane.
And I guess the last frequently asked question, John, so how can I, as the public, stay involved?
Well, Shane, the public can stay involved in a number of ways. They can stay connected to our website and follow updates on there. They can also sign up for our emails. If you go to the Columbia Compass website, there is a way for you to sign up for emails. Just provide us your email, and we send out typically monthly or bi-monthly updates about the comprehensive plan and how it's moving forward. And you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. If you are more interested if you want to dive a little bit deeper and be more interested in a particular recommendation or some other component of the comprehensive plan, as we go into implementation, we will be keeping a list of individuals who are particularly interested in a certain recommendation, and then we can, when we get to that point in our process over the next 10 years, we could contact you and try to loop that person into that process so that you can have a little bit more community involvement. So as we've mentioned, you can join us live today or virtually by sending us in emails at columbiacompass@columbiasc.gov. And Lee, do we have any emails that we've received yet?
I don't see any emails yet, John.
Okay, great. And then you could also join us by calling 855-925-2801. That meeting code for this afternoon's meeting is 9372. And that will allow you to, if you press *1, allow you to listen to our conversation. You can also press *2 to record a voicemail message, which will be aired live on this webinar, and then we'll answer your question. Or you may press *3, which will allow you to be placed in a queue so that you may ask your questions when prompted. And we have a lot of experts here who worked on the plan who are waiting for questions. So Andrew, do you have anyone who has recorded a voicemail message or might have called in?
Hi, John. I do not have any voicemail messages at this time, and I do not have any callers that have requested to speak.
Okay. Well, why don't we just give it a few more minutes to see if anybody would like to join us. But as we wait for just a few more minutes, I do want to mention that after anyone who's viewing this virtual meeting live at the moment, if for some reason you would have any questions that you think of this afternoon, we will be hosting another virtual meeting this evening at 6 o'clock. So you can join us at 6 o'clock this evening and participate at that time. And of course, if you have questions in the days to come between now and the public hearing at City Council, people are more than welcome to reach out to us via email or through the website and let us know what your questions might be, and we will respond with that. While we wait, Lee, is there anything else that you might want to that we could share about the plan, or anything else, just to give people some time to call in?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I would just, I think, from all of us, really, we'd like to say thank you for all of the participation. You all have given us your time and your energy and your passion for the community. And it's been a really great process. And we're really looking forward to continuing to work with you as we move towards implementation. I would just encourage folks who, no matter whether you've been involved since day one, since we've met in October of 2018 or earlier, or if you're just kind of jumping in now, make sure you're following us on Facebook and Twitter. If you use social media, or sign up for our mailing list, it's really the best way for us to apprise you of updates to the plan, and we're really trying through Facebook and Twitter to highlight a lot of those recommendations of the plan and a lot of the case studies. So it's a great way to just get a little snippet of the plan every couple days as we post, if you follow us, because we recognize that it's a big document, and it has to be to move forward for the next 10 years. But we know that our time is all limited, and our attention span, especially in this kind of surreal time that we're going through, there are a lot of demands on our attention. So we want to make sure that we're able to kind of connect with you even for a few moments.
Yeah, you make some great points. We had some really great engagement throughout this process. I think Lee mentioned we had over 5,000 points of engagement, and that didn't even include, mailings for water bills and things like that. So we were able to really reach out to a lot of people, and we hope we'll be able to continue to do that through all of our different sources. Just to wrap up, I guess, let's see if anyone has sent in any emails, Lee, while you and I were chatting.
Sure, yeah, I don't have any at this point, but okay. Thanks for checking.
And Andrew, do you have anyone who's called in or left a voicemail message?
John, no, I do not have any voicemails that have been left, nor do I have any callers that have indicated they wish to speak.
Okay, all right. Well, Lee, do you want to just wrap it up in a few sentences for all our callers before we see them later this evening?
Sure. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. We wish we could see y'all in person and chat with y'all in person, but we look forward to working with you in the days and years ahead. And we just hope that you and your family and friends are well, and yeah, excited about the future for Columbia.